I'm Juliana, real food nutritionist, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you my weight loss secret of is this food good or bad for you? Okay, so let's get started. So the reason why I put together this video is that I hear so many people say, can I eat this? Is this good? Is this bad for me? When they are going through their weight loss, what I like to call weight release journey. So I think it's really important that we kind of from the start of your journey, you really kind of, be able to separate good or bad. And I really hope that what I'm about to tell you will kind of shift a little bit of your thinking. Okay. So the number one thing that I wanted to share with you today is what I call my eating guidelines. So there's three things that I tell all my clients when they get into their journeys that I think is so important. So the first thing is, if you can't pronounce, don't eat it. Okay? And that is so important. And I have another video coming up very soon on how to read the label for weight loss, very much like a pro. So if you want to hit the subscribe and the little bell next to it, it will really remind you or let you know when the video is out so you don't miss it. But really, if you can't pronounce something on the label, and in that video I'm going to explain why, but you shouldn't be eating it for weight loss. The second thing is stay as close to real food as possible. And I'll come back to that just in a second. But that is, again, another very, very important point when you're deciding if a food is good or bad. And the last of my three eating guidelines, and I think it's one of the most important ones, is that if you must eat something or drink something, then it's time to let it go. For example, if you must have your coffee to be able to start a day, if you must have a glass of alcohol at night to be able to relax, those are good tellers that you're probably developing a little bit of a dependency and healthy relationship with that food or drink. Therefore, it needs to be addressed if you really want to, be really successful in your fat loss, weight release journey. Okay, so with that out of the way, so let's kind of come back for a second here. So what is a good food? So as we said before, the closest to real, the better. But the most important rule that I want you to remember is that when you think of good and bad when it comes to food, if the food is real, the food is never the problem. I'll repeat, if the food is real, the food is never the problem. Even if you have a food sensitivity to it, or if you just don't feel well after eating it, the food is not the problem, our gut is. Okay? So even in the context of food sensitivity, if we work on the gut, if we heal the gut, if we really bring function back, if we improve function, as long as the food is a real food, we're likely able to revert that process. And I hear this, and I myself have been diagnosed with autoimmune type conditions in the past, in which I was told that autoimmune is my body attacking itself. And I just could never believe that. I could never understand why would our body, with all this intrinsic intelligence, do so. But later, after many, many years of studying and in my practice, I actually realized that all autoimmune condition is our body fighting the stressors, but there's so many, they're fighting so hard to keep us safe that it feels like it's attacking itself. So using that mentality that the food itself, as long as it's real, is not the problem. It's the gut and how it's reacting to it because of imbalances that it's under that is the problem. Okay? So as long as it's real food, you may temporarily have to avoid eating it until you do all the foundational work in the gut and so on to be able to tolerate it. But let's start taking that label or good or bad out of whole foods, even if you have to temporarily prevent yourself from consuming some. Say, you do a food sensitivity testing and then you're reacting to eggs and you're getting eggs from a real good farm and it's high quality eggs. The egg is not the problem, our gut is. So let's work on the gut and then see if we can reintroduce them back later on. However, to keep pushing a food that your body is reacting to is not good either, because then it can actually have quite a bit of things happening in the background that may actually slow down or impede your weight release process to take place. Okay? Now, the second thing to think about is, what about a bad food? So if you go back to our basic eating guidelines, If it is something you can't pronounce, it's probably not real. If it is something that it's not closest to real food, so for example, think of real protein as in piece of steak versus protein powder, much farther away from the real food. And some people actually have some digestive upsets when they consume some specific types of protein powders, and they don't think that that's possibly what's going on, but it could be. And the last guideline is if you really must have something, then let's look into it. And a lot of those I must have it usually are not related to eating broccoli, right? A lot of the must haves seem to be related to the high carb, high sugar, high fat, high salt foods. Because they cause a whole dopamine reaction in our brain. It really signals that reward, even if short-term system. So those are the foods that we just have to be really careful with. But when it comes to not real, I really wanted to think of the diet foods out there. Some of them, offering you miracle results, which is probably something that you should be careful with anyways. Anything that's too good to be true, likely it is too good to be true. But also when they are saying eat this shake or eat this replacement meal in lieu of eating whole foods, and I think that's really when the problem starts. Or eat this processed food that's, specific calories in this box, very small slices. So it's just reducing the portion size to allow you to continue to eat all those processed, heavy in preservative type of foods, which are not supportive of a long-term, I'm not talking short-term here, I'm talking long-term weight release process. So just to sort of recap, just make sure that before judging a food as good or bad, just think of it as real or not real. The real food is never the problem. Possibly your gut is, more underlying issues to be able to consume those foods. But most importantly, if the food is not real, we will consider them not good in our world, because we really want to focus on eating whole foods. So we don't have to measure, we don't have to count, we just eat whole foods, and our body will eventually regain its shape, its function, and be happy and healthy. So those are the tips for today. So if you have any questions, whether or not something is good or bad, go back to that process. Remember the 3 basic eating guidelines, and make sure to subscribe and hit the button so that you can get notified when my next video is coming out. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.